Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hunting Illinois podcast. With me today, we have Lauren and Curtis. What's going on, guys?
Going well, going well.
Yeah, you have a good holiday and New Year's and everything. You get out all over the break.
Little bit. It's a little bit of waterfowl hunting, but it was slow.
Yeah,
So dealing with a lot of weird weather, weird birds, stale birds, and we did have one decent hunt right before Christmas. We got into a couple Drake canvasbacks, so we got a couple. Mentees got their first ever bird, and it was a Drake canvasback, so that's a good way to get on the board. But other than that, it was pretty slow in the waterfowl blind. And then I got snowed out at deer hunting. I was just getting ready to deer hunt, and then got dumped on by about a foot of snow, and so I missed the last few days of that. But how about you guys?
Stick most of our holiday season, but right before that, I was gifted a raccoon, so I was able to practice skinning that. That was an adventure. I still can't get over the amount of fat that was on that thing, but it was a good experience, good practice.
yeah. So I didn't get out at all. I was busy traveling around and everything. So I'm excited to get back out still. There's still a lot of season left. We're going to talk a little bit about what is still available and what can still go out. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about today and kind of our plans to end the season on before we start talking about turkey season, which is right around the corner. We always get ready for that. And talking about turkey season, one thing we want to remind folks is that the lottery is still open for that. So you got the second lottery, I believe, goes to the 13th of January. I want to double check that, but you can go and apply for that. That's for resident and non-resident. We actually put up a video if you're not used to applying for the lottery or not sure how to look up what tags remain. We go over that whole process. So check out our YouTube page where we go over looking up what tags still remain and looking at what public land sites might have county level tags if you never got the special site specific tag. So there's still a chance for you to get hunting turkey if you didn't apply for the first lottery. And we go over that really well with that video there. So check that out on our YouTube page. We also posted that to our Facebook page. So if you're on our Facebook, you can check it out there too. Other reminders is we have a trapping workshop coming up, but that's like a month away. So you can go check that out. And then we also have an update for the DNR put out their report for the preliminary harvest for the gun season, at least for deer season this year. And it was up from last year. So that's a good sign for the deer population in Illinois. There's plenty of deer out there still. So hunters in Illinois took a preliminary total of 82,496 deer during the 7-day 2024 Illinois firearm deer season that concluded on December 8th. Comparatively, hunters harvested 76,494 deer in the 2023 season. So that's good to see. And that's all like weather dependent too. So we had some pretty good weather. I know second season was very cold. I was out there with my breath freezing on my face. I think it was like wind chills of like -14 or something like that on that one Thursday there. So if you got out, hopefully you were able to see some deer and were successful with that. A news item that we wanted to talk about was kind of the avian flu. Curtis, do you have any updates on kind of what that's been looking like and how that's been impacting the state?
Yeah, so you get a lot of people hearing about the avian flu. A lot of people probably noticed the egg prices may be going up at their local grocery store. All that ties back to avian flu, and definitely had many sick and dying, mostly geese, mostly snow geese, because of their gregarious nature. They're always in big flocks, easy to spread from bird to bird to bird. So that was the most prevalent species impacted was the lesser snow geese. You'll see snows and blues. I saw some videos of fields where maybe you just see dozens of them that are obviously confused. Personally, when I was driving back from our last waterfowl hunt, that was, when was that? January 3rd, 4th, I believe. There was just one lone snow goose standing out in a cornfield. And so maybe it was just injured, but good chance that maybe it did have the bird flu. So IDNR is asking that people, if you do see any large mortality events, if you see any clusters of dead waterfowl, especially, but any birds at all, but especially look for it in waterfowl, to report that to the IDNR, but do not try to collect the carcasses. Because yeah, you don't want that spreading to you or bringing it back home and spreading it to something else. So far, it doesn't seem like dogs are highly susceptible to it, but cats definitely are, and a lot of other animals are as well. So definitely practice precautions. Use gloves if you have to handle something that might be sick, and wash everything up. But if you don't have to, leave it there. Just report it to the IDNR and leave it be. So definitely this may have some impact on our basically the spring conservation snow goose season. Might be a few less geese moving north, but to be honest, there are so many snow geese that we may not even notice it in most of these Passover states in the Midwest, but they'll probably notice it up in the breeding grounds, but we'll see. The full extent of this mortality event isn't going to be known probably until we get into the spring and they start flying over the nesting grounds and looking to see what's there.
Yeah, I mean I know we were worried about the different controlled pheasant hunt programs here in Illinois and making sure that the pheasants weren't getting sick at all and stuff like that, and worried about if the numbers would be low and if we could have the opportunity to get birds later on in the season or not. But so that's something you have to worry about too when it comes to the state. But then, yeah, so moving on, do you guys know what else you're going to be doing this winter when it comes to hunting? What's left on your to-do list? I know squirrel season's about to pick up, which people don't think about. And I know upstate squirrel season reopens hopefully on most of the public land up there. I know they close it down during a lot of the archery season and some of those northern sites. So it might be prime squirrel season for folks. And what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
hoping to get out for squirrel and rabbit. I have a couple rabbit hunts lined up that hopefully, weather dependent, I suppose. See how much we're willing to suffer up in more northern Illinois. If it gets real cold, then that may not be happening. We'll see how it goes.
At least with small game, you're moving around.
Mhm.
You're able to generate that body heat. Deer hunting to me is the worst because you're sitting still, and that's hard to do when it's really cold, being super still. But small game hunting is not too bad. I prefer having some snow because you can see them so much further away with that snow down, which a lot of the state does have some snow right now. So pretty good. And what Jason's talking about that a lot of people don't think about is the squirrel rut. So we all know about the deer rut, right? Everybody is trying to hunt. They're putting in their vacation probably already for next year for like Halloween through the first couple weeks of November because that's the deer rut. But squirrel actually have a rut during their season, and it's probably happening right now in most places of the state. Can happen as early as mid-December, but generally it's like early January is when it starts to peak. And you get a lot of squirrels running around and chasing, a lot of competition between the males over the females. And this is a time where you can hunt. You can see a lot of action at any time of day because the squirrels are not just, they got two things working against them, right? They've got their breeding biology that's telling them to go out and find females. So they're moving around a lot during the day. Remember, squirrels are only active during the day. Unlike we were just talking about waterfowl, guess what? If they want to fly and feed at night, they can. Deer, same way. Squirrels, much, much too dangerous. Too many things at night that want to eat them. They can't see the limbs that's their safety, jumping tree to tree. So they're not out at night, except for the flying squirrels. They got to do all their activity at daytime. So between trying to find a mate and then at the time of year where resource availability is at its lowest, but it's really cold, they've got to survive. So they're out there finding all their food caches, doing all that, and trying to find a girlfriend all before Valentine's Day. That's a lot for a little squirrel, I got to tell you. So hats off to them, but it's a fun time to be in the woods. You can see so much further now, right? Because all the leaves are gone. So it's a great time. If you have a place that you can hunt with a small caliber rifle, like a 22 rifle or a 17 HMR, that is a great way to hunt this time of year because you've got more distance you can see. So having that extended range is fun, but definitely check your area specific regs because most of the time you're going to need private land to use a rifle. There are a few public land sites that allow it in Illinois, but few and far between. So definitely check that out. And even if you do have your shotgun, awesome time to get out and find them. They're going to be moving around. like I said, all times a day. So if you're not a morning person, if you don't want to wake up at 5 o'clock to get out there for first light, go out at 10 o'clock. You're probably going to have action even in the middle part of the day. I would even say, especially in the middle part of the day when it does get really cold, like you were talking about, Lauren, them squirrels ain't stupid, right? When it's really cold, they're going to wait and concentrate their activity into that basically 10 to 2 time period. Um, that could be a great time to go out. And another added benefit, because of all these males moving around, if you have a small private land spot or even you hunt the same public land spot all the time, this is the time, just like the deer rut, where squirrels are moving around. So you might go hunting and encounter 4 or 5 squirrels, and all of them are males, and maybe none of them came from that exact spot. So it's a good time to hunt and really focus the hunting pressure on these transient males looking for females. You don't hardly impact the population at all. They're still there, but good, fast action, just like with the deer rut. So,
And if
and
your
much
kids
easier to drag
are
back to
making
your
you
truck.
crazy, kids are making you crazy, you need to get outside, tired of being inside, it's a fun thing to go do. Get out in the snow a little bit.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
know I got some scores to settle after deer season for sure. After hearing them running around that whole time and me not sitting there with my 22. So yeah, and also I honestly just want to get some set where we can have something to eat for all of our spring workshops. I mean, we always
Hmm.
like to have a food component, and having squirrel is something fun for folks to try, possibly for the first time when they come out to our events. So that's my goal, honestly, is to try to load up here in the coming month. So squirrel season goes to February 15th, if you didn't know that. So a whole month after deer season closes, you can get out there and still get outside. Any other tips for squirrel hunting at all, Curtis? I know you love squirrel. You prefer eating it over almost anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I squirrel because that's the first animal I ever hunted, so it always has a special place in my heart, and that probably makes it taste better. But yeah, if you get young gray squirrels, like I think there's hardly anything better. I mean, I really like duck, I really like deer, like a lot of different things, fish, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's tough to beat a good young squirrel pan fried, like the old time comfort food, get a little gravy, mashed potatoes, the pan fried squirrel, and like some peas, carrots. Oh, that's good
I
stuff
want
right from grandma's house there.
I want to make like instead of like a spicy chicken noodle soup, like a spicy like squirrel noodle soup. That is like what I want to do this fall. That's like, but I need to get some more squirrels to go do that. So,
Yeah, well, when it's like you said, -14 wind chill, that's a good time for soups.
yep,
Good way to
exactly.
warm up.
Yeah, you can put it in the crock pot and then come back to it after you're done. Um,
Yeah, so I wouldn't say any specific tips, but just
yeah,
one thing to keep in mind with squirrels is it's very relaxed on the amount of equipment you need. So like Jason said, the redemption from deer hunting, it's more than just getting back at the squirrels that were barking at you all deer season. But it's also just like that redemption of getting into a type of hunting that's much more relaxed, right? You don't have to wake up before sunrise. You don't have to, oh man, did I wear the right shoes? Am I wearing scent proof deodorant and all that? Like, you don't have to worry about any of that. And squirrels, they can smell you a little bit, but there's just so many of them out there that if you mess up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, guess what? You still probably got more opportunities coming. So it's like the
Especially
perfect feel good hunting type, I think.
And especially if you're in an area where squirrels are used to people, like it's trickier when you're in a spot where they don't see that many. But if you're in a spot that like they're used to people going back and forth all the time, I feel like you don't have to be quiet necessarily. You can just kind of, bebop along and still have some success.
hmm. You guys have any other plans? We have you guys. We haven't done it. No one's going to do a trap line, I don't think, but I think Lauren eventually is going to do a trap line. So when it comes to trapping season, Lauren's really interested in getting into it. Curtis has a lot of experience in it. Is that something that folks have been doing? Would you have started trapping, Curtis, and how long do you usually go trapping into the season for?
Yeah, so since I do a small amount of trapping, like most people, there's not too many people that are trapping hardcore from beginning to end. It's just not the way it goes. So I want to concentrate my trapping efforts when most animals are at their peak primeness. And for a lot of the things that I would want to trap, I mean, that's right now. So your water fur, like your beaver, muskrats, they're good now. They're super prime. They're going to be the thickest that they can be all year, and they stay good all the way until, basically March, April, until it starts getting warm. So anytime through there is the peak time. If you've got problem beaver, this is the time to go get them, because not only can you solve your problem, but you also have the beaver, which is excellent meat, but you have the fur, which is now at peak primeness. You also, the further we get into the spring, the bigger their castor glands get, which is another marketable item of the beaver that's used in a lot of different flavors, like a new car smell. It comes from beaver and a lot of different things like that. So that's the most useful time to do it. I probably will at our family farm. We've got a couple beaver that one of the landowners out there told me that he wanted gone because they were, he's had to tear back the dam a few times already. So I probably will go after them pretty soon. This is also really good time for predators. Most of our predators are at peak primeness right now. And then as we go into the spring, that will start to degrade pretty quick with the predators, much quicker than the water fur. So once we start getting into late January, early February, a lot of the predators are subprime at that point. You'll get coyotes, raccoons with rubbing down on the backs of their guard hairs on their backs and all that kind of stuff. So right now is the peak, and it's pretty fleeting with the predators, but it'll last a little while with the water fur.
Yeah, like the raccoon I got about a month ago from a friend of mine doing predator control. So that was the goal, not necessarily the fur. It was just for me to practice. And it's not bad, but it's definitely not the prettiest raccoon coat I've ever seen. So
Yeah, generally they call it blue. So if they're not prime, then once you get the hide all fleshed down, instead of being that pure white color, it'll be kind of a bluish color. And that's just because the hide hasn't thickened and vascularized yet, which happens in the wintertime. So they're still fine. You can still tan them, and it's just a little thinner leather, so they don't last quite as long. But yeah, that's and I want to get a lot of fur tan this year because yeah, my well, actually, that's Christmas present, so I can't say this because this is being recorded. So never mind. I'm not going to talk about that. Strike it from the record.
it's okay. It's on my goal too. I froze the one I skinned, but I'd like to flesh it. I got some cool tools for Christmas. And then actually like home tan it as well, just to practice and, learn about it. So my poor
Nice.
neighbors. I'm like, just don't look at my garage where I have this half-skinned raccoon hanging. Like, just keep walking, guys. It looks a little sketchier than a deer, I think. Even though it's smaller, like it looks a little more suspect. Maybe Jason can put up a picture I took of it. It looks a little scary.
Yep, yeah, I can have that over top of this. So yeah, so Lauren, you're actually interested in getting into trapping. What made you want to get into trapping? And you want to talk a little bit about some of the classes you found and that you're going to go participate in here soon?
Sure. I don't really know because honestly, when I initially did it, I was like, oh, like kind of the optics of trapping aren't great. Like I know everybody talks about like the perception of hunting, but the trapping is so much worse, I think, in terms of like just the average person. I kind of woke up one day and was like, hey, you guys are doing a workshop on trapping. Like, let's take it. I will say I am more interested in beaver and muskrat, just because I mean, you can eat pretty much anything, but those two in particular are more appealing, shall we say, than some of the other options available. But with the Beagle Club, we also have to do some predator control to keep the rabbit population up. So it's a good opportunity to practice. I don't know if I personally can do coyotes. It's very dog. I look and I see dog. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are gonna be mad about that, but personally, I don't know if I'm quite there yet.
I get it. I'm the same way. I never taken a coyote before. They remind me of dogs too much. I get why
Yeah.
you take them. I was so close this year because I saw one that looked like I don't even know like a snow dog like a I don't want to say a husky, but it looked like it was its coat was winter coat. I mean, it was fluffy and it was
Mhm.
huge and almost ran me over second firearm season. It was two of them came running through the little ravine I was sitting in, and they almost went up on the little the the incline that I was sitting on, but they went on the one next to me, and he stopped right on the other side of a tree, or else I would have shot him because he was dead even with me on the ridge I was sitting on. And then eventually they took off running as fast as they could, running away, trying to get a shot at him. But that was the first time I was like, "That's a pretty nice coat," and I almost shot it. But yeah, they do look a little too much like dogs for me too.
Yeah, yeah. So I struggle with that a little bit. But I'm also just interested in the process of it, kind of the art with like tanning and then being able to sew things out of it. I know Illinois, Curtis has said, is a little on the warm side for a lot of fur. Like you're gonna sweat. But even with squirrels and rabbits and stuff, I'd be interested in practicing. Just kind of a thing to. We've talked before. I've got an anthropology background, so like the kind of community and cultural history of it is just I find really interesting. But coming up, I have the Wisconsin Women's Trap Camp in March that I'm very excited for. Um, it should be a really it's going to be like a crash course, so that'll be nice to get some hands-on experience. And I know Becoming an Outdoorswoman in Illinois is offering one, I think that same weekend. So if anybody, any ladies out there are interested, you should definitely check it out. Even if you're not sure, worst case you meet some cool ladies interested in trapping, and you decide you don't like it. Best case, you decide, hey, this is awesome, and I want to be involved. And if you're a turkey hunter, especially, you're gonna want you want trappers around because it helps take care of some of the predators that kill off all the young turkeys or eggs and things like that. So it's a good, even if you're not interested in trapping, be nice to your trappers. Let's put it that way. They do a
Mhm.
lot for your population control and keeping the populations healthy.
I think
And then in
for
September,
anybody that maybe has like seen a trapping show, and they're like interested in that, these classes like you're talking about, it's a good way to get a more immersive look at what's going on. Because yeah, trapping is not well understood because so few people do it. We talk about how few people hunt and how there's fewer doing it all the time, but the trappers numbers pale in comparison even to that. So just think about the few number of people, and where there's not many people doing it, that's where you get, you don't know if you're getting good information or not. So definitely take one of the class and learn for yourself. I know when I was in Wisconsin, we had several people who took the class from a standpoint of like almost saying like, hey, I'm not going to like this. I'm here basically to not like this. And by the end, they were singing a different tune,
yeah, there's a lot of
because every,
misconceptions.
Mhm.
yeah,
Like it's not the big like bear trap or man trap with like the rusted, with like the teeth. It's not it whatever you're thinking if you're not experienced with it, it is not like that. You're thinking of like old-timey Hollywood kind of perception of it. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of even with like different like hiking Facebook groups, like, oh, my dog got caught in this trap and like it's barbaric and it's awful. My dog's going to be injured and the dog's fine. Like they're designed to hold for the most part. So not to injure. So Curtis can go into more detail about that if he wants, but it's not as I encourage if even if you're on the fence about it to look into it a little bit and kind of learn more about the realities of trapping versus what you assume about it.
yeah, I think that is just a very common misconception. Is when I forgot what I did over break. I actually had something I could have mentioned. We went to the western part of Pennsylvania for Christmas, and we ran out a cabin up there for my family to stay in, and it was in the elk country of Pennsylvania. And so, talking about conservation and bringing an elk population back to an area. I mean, there are over 1,500 elk now in Pennsylvania, and you can hunt them. And we got to see the Elk Visitor Center in PA was gorgeous. I was looking at it as from our job perspective. I'm like, oh, this classroom, it'd be awesome to have a event in here and stuff like that. But and I mean, it was as if they weren't penned, but sure as heck, you go to the Elk Visitor Center right next to it. It's where there's a whole herd of elk next to the visitor center, like they planned it. But on the way to the visitor center, though, we saw a herd bull elk right next to the road, like right where like a mailbox would be. I have a photo of him. I'll throw up, and he's this gorgeous bull. But if you look close to him, he wasn't doing well. You can see kind of his hip bones and everything, and he looked kind of scraggly. And on his front leg, something happened to him where his front hoof was like almost disconnected from his leg. And the first thing my nephews and even my parents said was, "You think he got stuck in a trap?" And I was like, "They don't make traps like that anymore. Like I don't think that would be possible for him to have his front hoof ripped off from the types of traps that are used nowadays, at least not legal ones." But that just goes to show that's kind of your first thought of if you see like a wounded animal on the side of the road, people think, oh, he must have got stuck in a trap. But in reality, it could have been a thousand other things.
Yeah, cervids can't really get caught in foot traps. Don't want to say never,
Right.
because I've heard that it's maybe happened in the history of the earth. I've never seen it. Had it happen a lot, because we got so many deer around. They step in it, they pull right out because they've got it's like a peg,
I mean,
peg
I'd
leg.
assume it'd be like not unlike if we were to step on one. Like it might trigger, but you're just gonna be able to, keep
Yeah.
going.
Well,
Yeah.
our foot's so big, the trap will be smaller, so people don't even usually notice. I've had a lot of people step on my trap and set it off, and they didn't even know, because all that happens is it slowly comes up under your foot. It just feels like, and they keep walking, never even know anything happened. So,
Yeah, Curtis, you want to even talk about kind of, I know we've mentioned this before if you've heard the podcast before, but like how they are, even for the target species, it's not meant to snap their leg, it's meant to hold them.
yeah, so that's comes back to the common misconceptions. There's two different types of traps, basically. So there's killing type traps, killing systems, and then there's restraining type traps. So most of us are really familiar with killing type traps because mouse traps are killing type traps. So if anybody, and this time of year is the time when a lot of mice are trying to come inside because it's nice and warm. So maybe some of you have set traps. Hopefully, when you set them, you set the snap traps, not the glue traps. Glue traps are the most inhumane trap ever invented by humans. I'm pretty sure of that. So don't use those. Snap traps are the most humane, and they're designed to kill mice quickly and efficiently, and they do a good job. So killer type traps basically are just like mouse traps, but made for bigger animals, all the way up to what's called a 330 body grip trap, which would basically be a mouse trap big enough for a beaver. And that's what most people use for a beaver. Well, guess what? It's just a big mouse. But the other trapping devices, what you're talking about, foot traps, these are live restraining traps, and these are the exact same traps that researchers use to catch animal for research purposes. So the exact same traps that they use to trap and collar wolves in the Great, or not the Great Lakes states, well, in the Great Lakes states, but also in the mountainous states. The same traps that they use to relocate otter to, I think it's now 22 different states that have had
Hmm.
otter reintroductions that have been successful. All of that is the exact same live restraining capture devices that normal trappers use. So there's a really good series of documents called the Trapping BMPs on it's AFWA, so the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, AFWA. If you search AFWA fur bears, it'll lead you to the BMP page, and you can read Trapping BMPs, which are best management practices for every species of fur bear in North America. I think they're still working on the last one, which is Wolverine. A little bit harder to do those because we were just talking about Alaska and Canada, but for all the other species, they have really good documents you can look through, find recommended methodology, and also recommended traps to use. And again, the same devices that researchers use. And when I was in Wisconsin, I always like to tell this story. We helped collar, so the Wisconsin DNR, well over 100 bobcats by the time I left. I don't even know where it's at now. But at that time, they didn't have a single capture related mortality, which is amazing. So this is well over 100 bobcats that have been caught by private trappers that didn't have a tag, or sometimes they do have a tag, but they just choose not to harvest that particular bobcat. Instead of releasing it, they'll call the Wisconsin DNR, come out there, do a whole workup, put a collar on them, release it. Over 100 times, and not a single capture-related mortality is amazing. You can't catch 100 birds in a mist net and not get some capture mortality most of the time. You can't catch 100 geese in a funnel net. You're probably going to have some mortality. I've done those things and I've had mortality, so I know. So, yeah, it's trapping's come a long way in the last 30 years, and I think it's video games. You mentioned movies, Lauren, to be the bad guy, but I think video games started putting in bear traps, and it
Oh,
became common
New Vegas has a
because
bunch
all
of
of a
them.
sudden we
Bugs Bunny
noticed
experiments, man.
what, what's
Going all
that?
the way back to that, like that's like what I'm thinking. Whenever I think of a trap, is almost like a Bugs Bunny type cartoon.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just
I
the
remember
big
them from
jaw
there.
trap, you know?
But we noticed that we were doing a trapping workshop in Wisconsin. So this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, all the kids started calling all the traps bear traps. We're like, what is this coming from? Like, we'd have a little bitty number one sitting there. It's a little trap for a muskrat. And they'd be like, oh, bear traps. They're like, what are you talking about, bear traps? You catch a bear with that? And anyway, we found out that they had video games that had bear traps, and so they just figure all metal things that you set out to catch something is just called a bear trap. So
Oh, okay. It's like calling
So,
everything
so
yeah,
a
if
bear
your
trap.
dog does get caught, don't panic because it's probably going to be one of the footholds and you can just let them go. Your dog should be totally fine. Do you want to talk a little bit about the body grips and kind of how they're regulated, like how they're used to kind of keep people from
yeah.
accidentally
So,
catching
You
dogs
want
in
to try to
them?
you want to try to lean forward to your camera and then back out slowly and see if it picks you back up again.
oh, am I dark again?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
Silhouette.
witness protection again.
Well, yeah. So the body grips talking a completely different trapping system. So these are killer type traps. They are designed to hopefully quickly and efficiently kill what's caught in there. So these are things that we do not want any domestics caught in, anything like that. So in Illinois, there's restrictions where we can only set the smaller body grip traps on dry land. The larger ones have to be at least 50% submerged in the water. And a lot of people will even go further than that and put most of their beaver traps completely underwater, not just because it's safer for other animals, but also think about you as the trapper who's wanting to catch that beaver and use the fur. If you catch a beaver and it's right up on the top, guess what? You might come to a caught beaver and an eagle standing on the back of that thing taking beakfuls out of it could ruin the hide. So it's beneficial to most trappers to even go deeper than the half. I know I'm almost always completely underwater, all the way down at the bottom of the channel if possible. So, yeah, there's setback restrictions, a lot of different things that people can do. I know myself, when I was trapping in Wisconsin, I was trapping for fisher and using body grip traps. And even though I was using small 160 size body grip traps, which most dogs wouldn't go through, it's still possible. And so I made all of my sets leaning pole sets because fisher can climb, dogs don't. So and did I take down my catch percentage by a small amount? Probably so, because fish are probably more likely to be caught at the base of the tree than climbing up the tree. But I only took down my fisher catch percentage a little bit, but I took my dog catch percentage down to zero. And for me, that was worth it. So by me utilizing what I know about the animals, I was able to make sets that had no appeal to dogs whatsoever, and also put them up in trees that dogs couldn't climb. So,
But it's also
um,
just a good reminder too, if you're on public land and you're supposed to have dogs on leash, especially if you have a little dog that could get stuck in one of those traps, some of those rules are actually there for a reason, and just be aware. But if your dog does get stuck, don't panic. I've seen a lot of people freaking out about it, and I promise it'll be okay.
yeah, keep your animal controlled definitely this time of year. But if the worst was to happen and you did have a dog go into a body grip trap, so basically, body grip traps kill the same way a big cat does, and they usually are doing thoracic compression. So that is just basically compressing down the thoracic cavity of the animal so they can't breathe, they die of asphyxiation. That means you do have a minute to 90 seconds to get in there and do something. It's not a lot of time, but it's enough time generally to get in there. And most of the body grip traps will have safety catches on both of which I should have grabbed one to show. I didn't know we were going to be talking this in depth about trapping, but anyway, the springs, you squeeze them down and they got just a little holder that'll hold that compressed. Once you get one spring compressed, you can usually turn that trap. So instead, when it's like this, it's cutting off their cutting off their airflow completely. If you can squeeze one lever down, turn it to the side, now they can start to breathe. You've bought yourself a little bit more time. Yeah, there you go. Lauren's got one. go ahead and squeeze that other lever enough to get it off of them, and they should completely recover. Obviously it's a traumatic thing, and you're going to be as probably as traumatized as the dog. But if you can be calm and just keep your head about you, you can usually get out of it and still have your dog intact. That being said, if you are weaker, somebody that can't compress the strings of the trap, that's your time to be resourceful. What do you have at hand? Hopefully, you have a dog leash. A dog leash can be used, actually leveraged to squeeze those down, which we'll try to get a video of that maybe and put it up on here. I'm
Yeah.
probably got videos on the Wisconsin Trappers Association webpage of this. But if you take your leash, go through one of those loops, go down to the other, and hook your leash on it, now you can stand and pull with all your body weight on the leash, and you can compress those springs. So that's a lot easier than just using your hands. So again, not ideal. Keep your dog under control, and it shouldn't be an issue. And all the trappers out there setting traps, hopefully they're using the same, common sense that I use when I set traps to try to avoid the potential of that from ever happening. But if it is going to happen, be a little bit prepared, and hopefully you can get out of it with just a couple bruises.
And just keep in mind too, public land is, for everybody. So if trapping is legal on that site, you can't really be that mad about it.
Yeah, you gotta make sure if you're walking along a waterway or somewhere that you think of, the trapper might be setting traps, to be aware of where your dog's at for sure. And I think we should make that video, Curtis. I think that's something that just the common knowledge of knowing how to set a trap and unset it, and possibly using a dog leash like that. I think is this great knowledge for folks that might not even be interested in trapping at all. Just something that is good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can make that video. They are out there already, but not
Yeah, if you
hard
Google,
to make again.
there's a lot. There's a lot if you Google.
So Lauren mentioned, pardon me. Lauren mentioned the women's Wisconsin trapping camp, and then also Bo, which is the Becoming an Outdoor Woman one for Illinois, which is open right now. And so those are two woman camps. Curtis, you know of any other resources that other folks might be able to utilize to try to learn more about trapping? I know we have our workshop coming up, I believe, in February. So you can come find us there. But what else might be a spot they can go learn?
Yeah, well, other thing I would say is recommend people to look up the Illinois Trappers Association, the ITA. So they do a rendezvous or a fall convention every year. That's usually, I think it's right in the last week of September, first week of October, somewhere in there. That's a great time to go. They usually have a Trapper Ed class there as part of the rendezvous, and there's all kinds of equipment for sale. There's all kinds of demos. All this is free, so people can go. They can learn a little bit. They can buy some equipment, all that kind of stuff. The ITA also has fur auctions, which are actually coming up. At least one fur auction coming up. I saw that Sleepy Creek Tannery is going to be there, which is awesome, because you could just give them your fur and you don't have to pay shipping. So that's nice for anybody wanting to get stuff tanned to potentially make something out of, which I am one. I need to get some stuff made out of fur for sure. But yeah, and then other than the ITA, also look up the FTA, which is the Fur Takers of America. They are also really active in Illinois. They've been partners for us at Illinois Hunt Camp and other things. So Fur Takers of America and ITA, the Illinois Trappers Association, both of those groups are active in Illinois. They both have memberships you can join, and they both have magazines that can come out to you. And both of them do meetings and these rendezvous where you can see demos and buy equipment, all that kind of stuff. So that's usually a really good place to start. They
I
do
got
hold that Trapper Ed class at the fall convention each year. So that's for people who want it for next year. That's a good place to do it. You can do it online as well if you are into computers. It's probably you learn a little less than the in-person class, but guess what? You could do it tonight if you wanted.
You do learn how to make a homemade catch pole though in the online class for. I mean, you may in person. I don't know, but I did that recently. And that's usually, I think the ITA, their big thing is usually at the end of September because I think we've had a few conflicts with Hunt Camp. If like me, you couldn't make it, Wisconsin also has one. That's where I got that trap and a whole box of traps for very, very cheap. And then we have the Purdue at Purdue. The Fur Takers of America has a trapper college in September.
Mhm.
That's quite a bit more expensive, but if you're really interested in it, from what Curtis has said, it's a very good resource. I'm hoping to do that this fall just to kind of help level up all kinds of trapping.
Yeah, for any like wildlife professionals or for people who are maybe wanting to get into like nuisance trapping,
Mhm.
it's probably the best like crash course that's going to be way more in depth than most of these camps and everything. They even go to another level at the trappers college. So yeah, that's big timing there for people who are really interested in it. But a lot of different ways to learn about trapping. Even like you said, Lauren, even if you don't want to particularly do it yourself, if you just want to learn more about it, the best way is to go to one of these things because you're not going to learn much from watching. Yeah, I don't even remember the name of the shows, but there's like three of them now that come on TV that are different trapping shows from all kinds of different places. So
And
learn
make
way
sure
more
to
through a camp than watching those.
Mhm.
learn what's actually legal because we've had a couple people talk to us about using like deadfall traps and things like that that are not you're not able to use in Illinois.
Yeah, there's a Netflix documentary called Happy People that kind of chronicles trappers in the middle of Siberia, middle of Russia. Well, guess what? What's legal there does not fly in America. So a lot of people are watching that and then they think, oh man, I got to be able to survive in the wilderness. I need to learn how to do all these things. But it's not legal to do
I
that
will
here.
say
So
I will say too, one on one in particular, trappers are probably of all the like hunting, trapping type people I've interacted with, the most willing to be like, here's my number. If you have questions, like they're very much like they are probably one of the more intimidating ones coming in from the outside, especially in a group. But they, at least in my experience so far, are the most open. They're happy to share their recipe for like a lure, or they're happy to, you know, if you have any questions, they want people involved. So don't be overly intimidated, and also don't let if the mechanical aspect of trapping kind of freaks you out, like you're really interested in learning all the species ecology and behavior, don't let the fact that it's a trap and you might get snapped deter you. Like that's my bigger hang up. Like I'm not a super mechanically inclined person. Um, it'll be okay. Like that's what some of the classes and stuff are for, to learn how to do it safely. And I mean, once especially it's been nice with Curtis seeing with some of the footholds, like they're not. I mean, it might hurt, but it's not necessarily going to break anything. Um,
yeah, a lot of times in those classes, like the first thing, if we're handing out traps to set, I'll just snap my hand in it like 4 or 5 times while I'm talking just to show people that, like, there's no bruise, there's no blood, there's no, I've snapped myself in traps before. Sometimes it hurts a little bit, but sometimes you don't even know it. I've
yeah,
been making
especially if it's
sets
cold, you know.
before and caught my hand in it and go to, like, hey, why ain't my hand coming? And that's because I'm stuck in a trap. Of course, I was wearing gloves, but when they fire through dirt, especially, they're going so much slower than when they're out, or if anything's in your way. So yeah, I usually just snap them on, and that usually puts people at ease because they're sitting there afraid, like, if this thing snaps on me, am I going to lose a finger? Am I
Yeah.
going to lose my whole hand? What's going on? I'm like, nope,
That's the thing
that's
with trap
mildly
college, with trap
inconvenient.
camp. I'm most excited for is that just exposure, because with the online class, like you kind of miss out on that sort of thing, like how to, you know what I mean, that it's like okay, like getting over that. But it's like any tool, right? Like I mean, if you've never shot a shotgun before and you're going, like that's intimidating. Like it's just kind of becoming familiar
Oh,
with
yeah.
your tools.
For sure, yeah. And you're talking about you're going to the Wisconsin women's trap camps. You're going to be learning from Sky. I'm pretty sure, the world record holder for women's setting of the barefoot bear trap. So,
Yeah.
I think she's the only woman to ever do it successfully, and she's won it at least once, if not more than once. And she's had times like, I want to say, under 2 seconds setting that thing, which is like world class for anybody. So when you're talking about setting traps safely, Sky Good is, well, it's Sky D for no. I keep calling her by her old name. different name. She's one of the best in the world. So learning from her is a good way to do it.
Yeah, the women Wisconsin trap camp fills up very, very fast and has quite a wait list. So I'm very excited I was able to sign up for it because I was having internet issues at the time. So I was really afraid it wasn't going to work out. But so
Yeah,
I
those
highly
things go
recommend it.
fast. If you're interested in going to those programs, you got to make
Oh
sure you
yeah,
know when they go
they fill up
on
quickly.
sale, and then and apply for it so that way you don't miss out because they do fill
And
up.
and that's what I'm saying for the bow one because it's new. I feel like a lot of people aren't as sure about it, but I like if you're interested, do it. It's a weekend,
Yep. I'll put a link of that in our description of this on YouTube. So if you want to go and find that out. And then Bo also has the regular Outdoor Woman weekends that they have a spring and fall one in North and South. And we've been to the two of them last year, and we're looking forward to working with them again because they were fantastic events and just
Yeah,
full of
Curtis
the.
did the trapping, and they had a
Yep.
fur sewing one as well, which was very cool. So that's what I would like to be able to do more fur sewing type things. I think
Mhm.
that's interesting how to use more of what you get.
Yeah, when we went to the rendezvous where we saw Sky do the barefoot bear trap, and I think she unseated a fellow who did it like 10 years in a row, where he's won every year, and she beat him that year, and it was very impressive. But I had my buddy with me who's never trapped before, and he just loves to learn everything. He's a Renaissance guy who just wants to be a jack of all trades. And as we were walking around, he was looking at it, and he's like, the money in this industry is being a sewer. And he's like, the trapper ain't making anything, and they got to do all this work and everything. He's like, well, the real money's good. He's like, if I was going to do anything with this, it'd be sewing. And so that's, if you're interested in learning how to sew furs and make some garments, I think that's a great idea.
It was interesting though, because at the Wisconsin, the rendezvous, they had the one of the Grunwald fur buyers. Not it wasn't the guy who normally does it; it was his brother. Um, but they were talking about, like why do you do this? Because you're not making money. Like you're not gonna get rich, for the most part, unless you have a lot of time and a lot of space. But people do it because they like it. You spend a lot of time thinking about how the animal is going to move and think, and just I find that very very appealing. And I like, for me personally, I like that I can just like bring my dog and go check my trap line if I want to, moving around a little bit, get a nice walk in. So
And a ton of people use it as a service to landowners, as a
mhm.
way to obtain hunting, permission. Because the thing that we haven't really talked about much, all these fur bears are all animals that are sometimes at odds with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether or not there's trapping, there's like, I'll put it this way: in the Netherlands, private trapping has been outlawed, but they still trap a whole load of beaver and muskrat, but nothing gets used because it's all government trappers that are being paid just to take out a problem. So that's what a lot of trappers that I find, they're doing it because, hey, a landowner feels like, even if you're not really doing them that big of a service because they've still got raccoons eating their corn all the time, they feel like you're doing them a service, so they're happy to give you squirrel hunting permission or deer hunting permission. And you as the trapper feel good because now you know you're coming in and making something out of nothing. Because if the landowner was coming out there, he would just lay waste all those coyotes and foxes that he could, maybe not be humane, and guess where they're going? Probably right in the trash. If I go and do it, I'm going to learn a few things and I'm going to use as much of that animal as I can. And for folks that you mentioned earlier, like I like the ones I can eat, absolutely, beaver, muskrat, great way to go. But the same things that come from hunting and obtaining your meat and lowering your carbon footprint, the same thing goes for clothing. And I know we already talked about Illinois being a little too warm. We're probably not going to be wearing full Jeremiah Johnson's fur coats out there, but actually in the next couple of days, you might want to be doing that. Um, but every bit of the plastic fabric that's created, all of that does have a blood trail going to it, just because it's harder to tell because it's not made out of the skin of an animal. There's no bit of clothing or warmth that we can buy that doesn't have a blood trail going right to it. And fur probably has the lowest blood trail out of anything that we can have to keep us warm. So I definitely want to get some fur garments made. I haven't yet. It's like crazy that I haven't yet, but I've always been like, it's too warm. But it's not going to be the next couple days on this duck hunt we've got coming up tomorrow. I'm probably wishing I had a nice beaver hat for that.
I have a like trapper style hat that's blaze orange with squirrel fur, and it's awesome. But I'm like, I wish it wasn't blaze orange because I'm like, it's not. I can't bring it for this. But I'm like, oh, it would be nice because that thing, I can't hear anything with it because it's just so insulated. But it is glorious. Like I love
It's like
that hat so
built-in
much. So
earmuffs.
yeah, that's true. I did get I don't know if this is considered appropriate or not, but I did order from a lady in Alaska. She does like boob warmers basically that you can stick in your bra from beaver skin or from like sheepskin. So I ordered a pair of each, and I'm actually excited to be able to test those out on our waterfowl hunt. So I'll let you know how that goes because I just think that's a cool, supporting a little small business, and she's got all sorts of cool stuff, but that one specifically I thought was a good spot in the market to fill, a good need.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got. I mean, at that at the rendezvous, I felt like I had to buy something just to help support them and everything. So I got a koozie, which was the easiest thing to
I'm
get.
gonna go grab them real quick.
Yeah, go for it. And it's been a hit whenever I bring out the old beaver skin beer koozie. And then Ed, the buddy I brought with, who was interested in sewing and everything like that, he ended up getting mittens. And he's I don't know if he's worn them or not this year or not. I have to ask him. He got them last year, so we'll see. But he went
Those
all.
looked awesome.
They were amazing. Yeah, they were very high end, awesome looking Jeremiah Johnson mittens. So beaver skin mittens that would look really really cool.
Yeah,
So
they were the kind like you could wear those and be riding your snowmobile on a day
yeah.
like today or tomorrow, and your hands will be sweating.
Hmm.
So she has them labeled as like pocket warmers, I think. Sorry, my dog is like so intrigued by the beaver ones. Like right now he's trying to climb in my lap, but they're like little that you just like put in to help block. And then there's like the sheepskin ones. So yeah, gold standard furs in Alaska. Just very nice to work with, and I don't know. I thought it was nice to have like a woman specific. I mean, you don't have to. Jacob, my husband's joking. He's gonna steal some for the waterfowl hunt too. But I just thought it was cool that it was a female
Yeah,
centered option.
that's interesting. Give us the feedback on that. Where's your squirrel hat at?
Oh, let me grab that too.
I'm interested in the style of squirrel hat that she has.
Yeah, with the blaze orange. I guess good for deer, but yeah, for everything else, you're like, man, wish this was just kind of natural colored. Although, one word of caution, I will say this. The one downside of wearing a fur hat, I had one buddy in Wisconsin wearing a fur hat, and he got hit by an owl. So he was walking around and got hit by an owl in the wintertime. So I guess that might be one reason to have the orange on there.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So she has it's natural colored hair, but it's the fringe on the big ear
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
trapper hat. Yeah.
There's another thing though. My dog, he's stop.
Does it
When I
turn
opened it,
inside
I asked
out?
for it for Christmas. Mine's from Mad Bomber because I liked that they had different hat sizes. Because usually for me, hats are way too big. But
Could you just
he's
turn it inside out and wear it? Then would it be camo?
ah
Kinda.
yeah,
Maybe a little white.
If
yeah.
you had
But
to.
I mean, I'll have a hood. But I was just yeah. See, I don't know if you can see, but my dog is like he's like, what you got?
Oh,
What you got?
Right. When I was on the island, and so we had a little pet island fox there that was like the island ambassador, we tested a ton of different trapping scents on this fox just to see what was the most interesting to him. And beaver castor won every time.
mm.
So
Good to
we
know.
had fox gland lure, we had fox pea, we had a bunch of food based lure that had mice or all kinds of different meat in it. And beaver castor was always the one that he went to first and stuck at the longest.
Good to know. I personally, Fox is another one that I'm like, but at the Beagle Club again, when I first started, my mentor was like, do you know anybody who traps in the area who traps fox and coyote? Because we have so many of those. So again, not necessarily one that I'm as interested in trapping, but if they are trapped, I will take just so, learn something, make something out of them. Everybody at the Beagle Club is going to be getting raccoon hats this year, I feel.
That's awesome.
Nobody will be cold.
Yep.
Yep. Stop, buddy. Yeah, that's
Cool.
the only thing if you've got fur. Like, your dog is going to lose its mind.
Yeah. Yeah, they chase my koozie around too. As soon as I start bringing that thing out, yeah, make a new friend.
They're
Um,
probably like, man, my owner finally got something cool. Like most of the stuff they bring here is so boring. This is cool.
This is interesting. I want to snuggle. I want to chew on it. Yeah. He also, I have a squirrel tail I keep hanging in my garage that we like play with sometimes. So I think that's like also, he's like, oh, I know what this is. It's for me.
Do you guys have anything else that you got planned for the end of the year here, going before spring comes around? Anything else besides squirrel that we talked about, going out and trying to hit up that squirrel rut, and then also possibly getting us some trapping?
Just my bunnies. Again, it'd be nice to have some
Yep,
in the
rabbit.
freezer for
No
learning
Yeah.
and
rabbit.
stuff. Um, I think
Yeah,
my
just
whole
find a reason to get out.
Hmm.
Also, this is the time of year where sometimes they do good fishing up there from shore on Lake Michigan. So I know parking is a huge issue, and sometimes it's crowded, but sometimes the folks there on some of those piers, they stock up on the perch. Sometimes they catch some really nice trout too, and every once in a while a salmon. So find some way to get outside though, because this is the time of year where a lot of people are vitamin D starved and like start getting cabin fever, and you'll start tearing to pieces your roommates if you don't find a way to get outside and burn some energy out
Yeah,
there, even when it's
learn some
cold.
tracks, learn some of your native like resident birds, like just, learn something. Go out and see what you see. It's nice. This time of year is actually a lot of fun for me in the woods, like with photography, if you're at all interested. Because like things like some of the woodpeckers stand out really nicely against the snow and the gray
Mhm.
sky. Like you can get some really cool photos, see some really cool stuff. So,
Yeah, and the tracks for sure. We didn't even mention that, but once you do get snow, now like there's no mysteries anymore. All the things that happen at night that we don't get to see, now you actually get to see because all the tracks are left out there. So you can just find a track and follow it and figure out what that animal did all night. I mean, that's cool and a really good way to learn about critters too, actually following them rather than reading in a book. Not that reading books is bad, but
and you can
much
even
more
do that
fun
in
to
your
follow a
neighborhood.
track.
I feel like I see more like fur bearer type traps in my or tracks in my neighborhood sometimes. Like, 'cause we've got a possum, there's some skunks, there's feral cats. Like you can see, there's a bunch of cool stuff out there. So,
It's fun to see what's moving when, because it gets real cold and all of a sudden you're like, hey, where'd the possums and the raccoons go, because they'll hole up for a while, but you're still seeing your tracks from like fox and coyotes and bobcats. And
and even
then you
even
get a
birds,
warm day and now all of a sudden all the possums and raccoons are moving around again. Pretty
and
cool.
even just seeing what the birds do is kind of funny because like they're on the ground, but actually seeing like their little patterns as they hop around and stuff, it just always makes me pretty happy to see like, oh, they've been hanging out on the mailbox, or you know what I mean, like
Oh
they've
yeah.
been chilling on my car. So.
It's
It's
amazing they're not all just little ice cubes, when it's like negative 14 wind chill and you just see this little bitty dark eyed junco. You're like, how are you alive? You're this big. And it's negative 14. Like, it's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was cool in PA when we were at the elk place in the snow there. You could see grouse tracks, which I hadn't seen in a long time. So that was really neat. I'm like, what the heck kind of bird is this? And then we were figuring it out. We're like, yeah, this has to be like a grouse. So,
Oh, and the backyard bird count's coming up too. So even if you don't want to, venture far, you can hang out in your backyard and kind of see, what your native birds are that are hanging out, and citizen science submit it and help get,
mhm.
population counts, which this year could be actually really helpful, especially with bird flu, kind of see how numbers shift. So,
That's a great point. Yep. All right. With that, I think we'll end it there. We've been here for about an hour, so that's cool. And I appreciate you guys sharing all your knowledge and going more into trapping than what we kind of planned on. But that was awesome to hear about. And there are resources out there right now for you to learn. Also, the great thing, there's not a lot of trapping education in person classes in Illinois, but they do post it well in advance. So if you, there might not only be a couple per year, and it might be away from where you live, but if you plan ahead, you can go to one and just make that into a weekend for yourself there. So keep an eye on that, and we'll post those as they come up as the new schedules come out. And now that
and
we're
we
in
have a
January,
few webinars recorded too, if you want to
yep,
get started, start to ease into it a little bit, because it's a lot. Like I
yeah,
feel like when you start waterfowl hunting, you're like, this is a lot. Trapping the same way, it's like this is a lot. Like you kind of have to focus on what you want to start with because it's a lot. I think Curtis likes to describe it as like a fire hose you're trying to take a sip out of, like you're yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. It's a diverse suite of animals. You're talking about the largest rodent in North America with the beaver all the way down to the smallest vertebrate carnivore in the whole world and the least weasel, and our only marsupial, the possum. And I mean, just, yeah, the fur bears, most other groups are like, oh, we got the cervids right in the West. You got deer, elk, mule deer. They're all pretty much the same. But then the fur bears are such a diverse group that really sets them apart from all other animals because no other group is that diverse. Waterfowl, well, they're all ducks and geese and swans. And so yeah,
You
and
got
I
you have
love the diversity.
the groundhog, or what do they call 'em? Woodchucks out here,
Yeah.
which technically isn't even a fur bearer, but is grouped with them. Like there's a lot. There's a lot to learn.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're not even out there. If you only walked around Illinois at this time of year, you'd be like, there ain't no woodchucks in Illinois
I've
because you're
only
not going
seen
to find them
two
this
in all
time
the
of
time
year.
I've lived here now. Like I've been here 4 years and I've seen two groundhogs.
Come to university in the
Yeah, well,
side.
one was down near you guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
up here I haven't
Oh
seen
man,
any. Like,
that 20-pounder that hangs out by the shed there, that's a
yeah.
booner.
We got a
That's a
bunch of
booner.
pole barns and sheds at the university, and every one probably has a groundhog living underneath it. So
yeah, I've seen
there's
one up
plenty.
here under one shed, and that's it. Like I haven't seen any besides that. Like out and about.
Yeah, and
One
my
interesting tidbit that I'll throw out here, just because I just thought of it, in Wisconsin for a long time, woodchucks were protected, and it was directly because rabbit hunters wanted woodchucks to be creating burrows that rabbits could then utilize. So at one point in time, rabbit hunters in Wisconsin were powerful enough that they got woodchucks protected, and that
Or we
changed a
could do
few
some
years.
habitat for the rabbits to hide in.
Yeah, it's funny how some of
That is
those
funny.
regulations come about.
Yeah, we'll have more about rabbit hunting, I'm sure, because my big goal for 2025 is to be able to hunt rabbits with my dog, like with my dog on public land. So by in November, hopefully, I'll have some updates before then. But that's my
yep.
big like hunting goal for the new year.
Yeah, it'd be neat to talk to some of the Beagle Club members and stuff like that, and get their perspective on what it's been like, and especially if they've been there for a long time and how the changes they may have seen over time.
Yeah, the club's been around. The club I'm part of has been around since 1972, 73, something like that. But they're down to like 6 members besides like me and my husband. Like it's very small, so
Yep.
it'll be
Yeah, and if you're
interesting.
Man,
interested
that's
in getting
back
this
when
out,
music was good. That's a long time ago.
Mhm.
you might find. I was just going to say, there's resources out there, and you might find that you might become the belle of the ball, like Lauren has at the Beagle Club, because you might show up and there be a lot of folks that have been there for a long time, and they just need some new energy in there, and they do anything. They bend over backwards to help
Yeah,
you
for
learn.
anything, any of the clubs, any of the dog clubs,
Mhm.
any of the like a lot of the hunt clubs. Upland, I know, has had a big issue too, where they don't have a lot of younger recruitment. And I feel like Upland stays fairly stable because it's quite an investment with the dogs and everything. So once people are kind of into it, it feels like it kind of flows. But they said they've had a harder time too. So
Hmm. Yep. So don't be intimidated by these groups. You might think that they are exclusive, but in reality, they want to be inclusive, and they want some new blood in there to help them stay alive.
and usually if you reach out and are like, hey, can I just tag along while you're doing like a training or while you're doing whatever, and most of the time people are gonna be more than happy.
Yeah, my suggestion would be just to do some legwork before you approach any of these places. That way, you have some knowledge of what they're doing or what's going on there, and show interest, and ask them at the right time. Like I have so many people ask me when I'm out if they want to go hunting or whatever. I'm just like, man, that's like what they need to do to go hunting, and I'm like, that's like a 6 hour long conversation that we need to have, and
We get a lot this time of year or in the fall, like during deer season, like how do I get started deer hunting? And I'm like, well, I can help you for next year. like,
yeah, ask me
like
when
you
we're not
know,
playing. Ask me when we're not playing darts, man. I don't trust that we're going to follow up on this conversation at all. So
yeah,
yeah.
it's not as easy as just
So
we
doing some of that
go.
legwork.
Although squirrel hunting is close. Squirrel hunting is the closest I feel like to you can just kind of tag along with a friend pretty easily with like a
Yes.
day's notice. So
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, and we met a really nice gentleman by the name of Jan down at when we did our university waterfowl hunt here just a few days ago, and yeah, he was passionate like you said, and his big thing was that he just wanted to see new people, whether it's youth or just new adults, get outside because he was an older guy, and he's like, man, people spend too much time on screens. They're constantly watching, they're playing, they're doing all this, and in all of his wisdom of being however old he was, he did not think that was a good way to live and much better to get people outside. So
But it's
that
hard if
was
you
his
don't have
big drive.
access. So that's what we're here for.
Hmm.
And I will say, I
Yeah,
get a lot of people asking, like, do you think it's video games? And I will say, my husband, like, hunting and video games are now, like, his two hobbies. So it's not like you can only do one. You can definitely make it work, you know.
Yeah, you just got to mix in the outside. You don't have to get rid of everything else. Just get
And you're
outside
much more
every once in a
interesting. Like,
while.
we've had way more adventures this year. Like, we've had way more just being able to get out and be like, oh, like, I've done some really cool stuff this year.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that research has shown that more and more is just getting outside is so important, and we're all moving away from that, and that's a huge issue. And it's like you said, uh, it's like exercising. At least you can do is walk your dog or something like this. Get outside and move, or just get outside for a little bit at a time. You don't need to go and get thousands of dollars of clothing and everything else. Like if just going squirrel hunting is all you need to do, just get a shotgun from Walmart if you can anymore, and get out.
And
But
so much of it is social too. Like it can be
Yeah,
very social. Like people always think like deer hunting, like you're by yourself, but there's so many other types of hunting. So if that's not what you're into, you've got lots of options. And I will say stay away from some of the Facebook groups, like find other sources, especially some of the deer hunting groups can be a little nasty, shall we say, to each other, especially for new hunters kind of asking questions. Not saying they all are, but I find that community like some of those communities are much less welcoming than some of the like
yeah.
waterfowl upland more social ones. So
There's some that are better than others for sure.
yes,
And
yes,
yeah,
for sure, they're not all the same, but I will say
yeah,
like if you're discouraged from that, don't take that as this isn't for me. Like that's not your only, those aren't your only options. Our page is great.
hmm
I think our connections page is awesome with people sharing information and resources and trying to learn from each other.
Everybody's got to deal with the trolls. Hunters are no different. Some of them are even hunters themselves. They're probably our worst trolls, and that's yeah. Somebody
Yeah,
will
like the
post a
hunting bro
picture of a
science,
small
some of
buck,
that,
and
like
they'll
just
get just hammered, or somebody will
like some
post
of
a
the
picture
stuff
with a
like
crossbow and be like, why ain't you using a real bow?" Or whatever it might be.
I don't
Like,
know. Maybe that would transfer over from Curtis. You glitched there, Curtis. What were you saying? A picture
oh,
of what?
I don't know when I glitch. So,
You said a picture
about
of
trolls.
about trolls, and there might be, and you'll have a picture of a small buck or something like that, and then people
Hmm.
probably talk on you or whatever. We're gonna
Oh
say.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. I mean, that was just basically it. Just talking about how we don't like the trolls that learn to hunt. So if anybody does troll on a post, we'll try to get in and nip that in the butt and delete it because we like to use Hank Shaw's terminology of "don't yuck other people's yum," and he uses it to apply to food, but we kind of broadened it just to everything. If somebody's out there legally hunting, fishing, trapping, walking around, bird watching, looking at tracks, whatever they're doing outside, feel like they're a friend to us. And if we can help more people do that, we've accomplished our goal. But
We're
hey,
all
you
part of
can't
the
feed
same
the
community. We
trolls.
all want hunting to continue. Like we all
Mm-hmm.
want. So just kind of keep that in mind. Give each other, be nice, be nice.
There you go. Yep. And then as the winter goes on and the spring goes on, we'll have more and more workshops and more webinars posted. We try to post that every month. If you want to get on our newsletter, you'll be sure to see our schedules come out. If not, follow us on Facebook and you'll see when those come out. So, like I said, that trapping one's going to be coming up. We'll have that scheduled in February. And then we'll start doing our turkey workshops probably here in what comes up to February, March. So yeah, so late February, March, and then head into that April turkey season. We'll have all of our turkey content coming out here shortly.
And if you have
So
any
yeah,
questions or suggestions too, let us know. We're always looking for, you know, what we can do to help out, fill in some of
yeah,
the gaps.
absolutely, cool. All right, guys. Well, we'll see y'all next time.
All right.